If your Fortnite keeps stuttering and you get low FPS or FPS drops on your PC or laptop, this video is the one for you, because I'm gonna show you how to boost FPS, fix stutters and fix FPS drops in Fortnite's new season without any BS. So let's get right into it. So the very first thing that you want to do even before going into the game is close out of everything, including the Epic Games launcher. Then what you want to do is open up the start menu and type in run. Then open up the run box and type in app data and hit OK. Inside of here, go into local and then scroll down until you can find Fortnite game folder. You can either delete this or simply keep it by renaming it to something like Fortnite game 1. Now what this will do is completely reset all of the configuration files, making sure that you don't have any of the broken files or settings from the previous season. And now you can get a fresh start on all of your Fortnite best settings. And now it's time to apply the best in-game Fortnite settings, which I just covered in this recent video that contains all of the best Fortnite settings, including the sensitivity and keybinds, so go ahead and check it out after completing this video. Now there are a lot of Windows optimizations that you can apply manually to boost FPS in Fortnite. However, applying each one of them can take a lot of time. That's why I've created this Fortnite FPS pack. Inside of here is everything that you need to do in order to ensure that your game runs completely smooth, you get no stutters and get the most FPS. We're gonna be starting off by creating a system restore point. Now I highly recommend to create a restore point, because in case you don't like any of the changes, then you can always go ahead and revert all of them. Turn on system protection on your system drive, hit create and name it something like Fortnite and hit create once more. Once the restore point is created, we're gonna be disabling the user account control, that dialog box that pops up every time you run something as an admin. The reason we're turning it off is 1, it's annoying, and 2, some tweaks do require it to be turned off. You can enable it after applying all of the tweaks, so simply double click on this, hit yes, OK, and you will need to restart your system to make sure that this is fully applied. Let's start off with the best power plans. The first thing inside of here to do is to disable power throttling, and then we can move on to applying these power plans. You can go ahead and apply any one of these. All 4 of these are the best power plans that are available out there. But right now, as you can see, these are simple files and we cannot import them other than using the CMD. For that, just go back and apply the import power plan.reg. And now if you go back into the plans and double click on any of these power plans, it will be imported into the power settings. And to apply it from there, go back once more and open up power plans. And as you can see, I have both the Adamax's as well as my own power plan right here. And I'm gonna choose my power plan because this is the one that works the best for me. Moving on to CPU optimizations. Inside of here, the first thing that you want to do is disable Spectre and Meltdown. These are useless security features that used to be of use before modern hardware and software. Right now, they're just hogging up the CPU, so simple double click, hit yes and hit OK. And we're gonna be unpacking all of the CPU cores. Just make sure to run this as admin. Once this loads up, ensure that the right power plan is selected and core parking index is set to 100%. Then hit apply, OK, and close out of this. Then for the advanced users, you also have the AMD as well as Intel CPU overclocking guides. Simply go ahead and follow these 2 guides if you want to overclock your CPU. However, for regular users, I would just recommend what I am applying and moving on to the next step. Up next are the GPU tweaks, and inside of here, first thing is DDU, which is used to cleanly and completely uninstall your graphics drivers so you can install the new ones on a clean slate. Let's start with AMD optimizations. Inside of here, you will need to go ahead and get the recommended graphics driver, and then you can follow this guide to debloat the driver, and then you can install the driver as you would normally. Then for the best AMD settings, simply open up this picture and apply all of the settings that are right here. Then you also have to disable ultra low power state, ensuring that your graphics card does not go into power saving mode. And finally, there are some of AMD tweaks, which if you have an AMD GPU, simply right click on it and run it as admin, and that's it. Moving on to nvidia optimizations. The first thing once again is to get the latest driver, then use nvclean install to properly install the driver by following this guide right here. And once you have the drivers installed, simply run this bat file as an admin. And for the best nvidia settings, simply open up the nvidia inspector folder and then drag over either CoreViz or my nvidia profile onto the nvidia profile inspector. Since I don't have an nvidia card, I get an error, but for you it will be a success message. Then you can hit OK, and then you will have the best nvidia settings. For Intel optimizations, you can simply go ahead and copy the settings inside of these images, and that's basically it. Let's move on to some general GPU optimizations, starting with MSI Afterburner. So you can download MSI Afterburner using this link, and inside of here what you can do is overclock your GPU. You can also have that FPS overlay using the MSI Afterburner. That's what I use it for too. You can mess with fan speeds, and there's a ton more. You can check out some of my other videos that I'll link in the description going over MSI Afterburner. here. And finally, we have got the MSI utility v3. So right click on it and run it as admin, and then inside of here, go ahead and make sure that MSI box is checked for your GPU and the intra priority is set to undefined. Then hit apply and you can close out of this. Let's move on to some Windows optimizations, starting off with services. So what this will do is disable all of the useless services that keep running in the background, and you can also revert all of them back to default using these bat files. So go ahead, right click on it, run it as admin. Also, if you have a hard drive, simply go inside of here and use this bat file to disable sysmain. That's another one of the services. Then we can move on to auto runs, and once it opens up, let it load everything first. Once it says ready right here, you can go on to log on and uncheck anything that you don't want to start up with your Windows. For example, I don't want Lively Wallpaper, Google Chrome, Brave, so I'm gonna simply uncheck them. I do want Epic Games Launcher to start up, so I'm gonna keep it checked just for the sake of the video. You can also go ahead and do the same thing inside of the schedule tasks, so make sure to uncheck any operations that you don't want starting off with your Windows. Let's move on to services. Once again, go ahead and repeat the same thing. Uncheck any Google Chrome or any other services. Once you have done all of this, you can simply close out of this. On the next restart, you will notice that not only is your Windows starting much quicker, but it is responding much quicker as well. Then we can move on to the keyboard and mouse optimizations. We're gonna start off with keyboard settings. So open this up, make sure that the repeat delay is set to short and repeat rate is set to fast. You can set this to here as well to make sure that there are no misclicks, and then hit apply and OK. Then we can move on to some additional keyboard settings. So you can go ahead and use the keyboard software to set the actuation rate or the polling rate to highest health. You can also disable the keyboard RGB to get a little less latency, but this has marginal difference on some devices. And then you can also delete the software afterwards since it is completely useless and we want as less of bloat on our Windows as possible. Then let's move on to mouse optimizations. Go into pointer options, set this to the 6th one right here and make sure that enable pointer precision is unchecked. Then hit OK, and let's move on to additional mouse optimizations. This is what we have already set. Also use the mouse software to set the polling rate to highest health, disable the RGB on your mouse, and the bounce time should be set to lowest. Additionally, you can also set the pointer scheme to none, but since you can see, even I don't follow that since it is placebo at best. And another thing that I wanted to point out is that I use 1600 dpi while a lot of pros use 800 dpi on their mouse. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me open up my software and show you. So this is my mouse software, and inside of here you can go ahead and turn off the RGB. You can also go ahead and set the DPI here, and as you can see, I'm using 1600 DPI with a 1000 Hz report rate or polling rate. This is what I'm talking about. Once you have done all of that, let's move on to the reg, and this is going to set the keyboard and mouse cue size. So both of these values, if I click on edit, are set to 1e, which is 30 in decimal. This is the value that ensures that you get the least latency using both your keyboard keys and your mouse clicks, but it also makes sure that there are no misfires when clicking the mouse button or pressing the keyboard keys, if that makes any sense. Let's move on to some registry tweaks. Starting off with RAM optimization. Make sure that you go ahead and select the RAM that you have and apply that registry file. This is going to group all of the SVC host services together, essentially making the process count lower if that's something you're into. So you will have overall lower number of processes running in the background. Then we can move on to better memory management. It'll disable large system cache as well as the page pool quota. It also disables the boot tracer and prefetcher, and all of these you can go ahead and look them up on Google or ChatGPT, since if I go into the detail of every single setting, this video will be like 2 hours long. Then next is decrease network delay, which will help you with your ping and the overall network latency. Disable driver searching will disable driver searching through Windows updates, because Windows updates can really mess up with your drivers, so we want to disable that. Disable DVR will disable the game bar. Disable GPU energy driver is another useless service that will be disabled. Disable network throttling will ensure that your up and down speeds are consistent. Disabling prefetch will disable prefetch. Fixing audio in Fortnite. Now this one is interesting. So if you are experiencing any audio glitches or simple audio stutters in Fortnite, then go ahead and use this one. Otherwise, you can skip this. Fix mouse delay will make sure that any actions done with the mouse, such as the hover time or right clicking, etc., are really snappy. Then full screen fix, I'm pretty sure all of you have already used it, will ensure that you're running in exclusive full screen. Monitor latency tolerance will disable the monitor's refresh latency tolerance, and priority optimizations basically sets games to the highest priority. Let's move on to some CMD optimizations. This one is a timer optimization, and once again you can right click and click edit to see what is inside of them. This is going to disable the dynamic tick as well as HPET and synthetic timers, which can help with latency a bit. So right click on them and run it as admin. Disable hibernation will disable hibernation. Disabling memory compression will ensure that nothing is compressed in your memory and you get the fastest access to it. Disable process mitigations. This is going to disable all of these that are listed right here. You can read through them. And then disable Windows tracking and spyware. It's going to disable soft landing, spotlight features, Windows consumer features, and a bunch of other things, which is not only going to help you with your performance, but it will also tremendously help you with your privacy. And the network refresh will basically flush the DNS and soft reset the network, ensuring that you get the best ping. So right click on one of them individually, run it as admin, and apply all of them. Moving on to Windows tweakers. Now inside of here, go into the UWT or Ultimate Windows Tweaker, and this is where you will have to make a choice. So if you are using Windows 10 like me, then go with this one. But if you are on Windows 11, then go with this one. I have the configuration files for both of them, so you don't have to apply anything manually, just follow me. So open up the folder and right click on the exe file and then run it as admin. Once the Ultimate Windows Tweaker opens up, go into additional. Also make sure to uncheck this before importing because that can crash your Explorer, and then click on import and then go on to the pack that you have right here. Then go into the Windows Tweaker, UWT, configs, and then depending on your Windows, select the configuration file. I'm gonna select UWT Windows 10 and then hit open. Import successful. Do you want the new settings to be applied right now? If you don't, then you'll have to manually apply them. So simply hit yes and all of the best settings will be applied. Also, as you can see, it has applied a bunch of visual tweaks and I don't particularly like this taskbar. So all you need to do is right click here, go into taskbar settings, then use small taskbar buttons and then change this to always hide the labels. Now you can close out of this since the tweaks are already applied, and then we can go ahead and hit OK, and you will need to restart your system. Once again, inside of the Windows tweakers, we're gonna go ahead and open up the Windows privacy dashboard. So for this one, what you need to do is open up the privacy dashboard and make sure that everything here is disabled, since you don't want Microsoft to be spying on you. So make sure that all of these are turned off. Then moving on to the blocker, make sure that spyware and telemetry is blocked by just clicking on this. You can also go with extras and updates, but I don't really recommend that. Then inside of the apps, you can simply go ahead and uninstall all of the bloatware that you don't want on your Windows. So simply go ahead and click on any app including the hidden ones and then click on delete selected, and now it will be uninstalled. Now we can close out of this, go back and open up the O&O Shutup 10, which is another one of privacy apps. And inside of here, since I have already applied all of the recommended settings, all I want you to do is go into actions, click on only apply the recommended settings, then hit yes and it will create a system restore point and then apply the best settings. Moving on to the final cleanup and adware removal. Inside of here, we're gonna start off by deleting all of the log files. So simply right click, run it as admin. It can take a lot of time depending on the log files and junk that you have, but nothing here is crucial, and you will not only get a lot of system space back, you will also be improving the performance and snappiness of your Windows. Once that is done, let's move on to deleting the temporary files, once again running it as admin. And then finally, we can delete the Windows Update cache. This was made by Trimmers, so credit to him. This is going to temporarily stop the Windows Update service and then clear all of the cache. And finally, we have got the device cleanup. So right click on it and run it as admin, and it will have all of the ghost devices that were once connected to your system but are no longer there. And all you need to do is go into devices, select all, then once again devices and remove selected. And the final and the most important thing inside of here is Malwarebytes adware removal. So right click on it and run it as admin, then click on I agree and then run the scan. This is going to close out of the other applications, so I'm not gonna run it right now, but go ahead and scan for any adware, any unwanted programs or pre-installed software, and it's going to remove all of that. Now you can go ahead and delete the FPS pack, go into Fortnite and enjoy the new season, and I'll see you in the next one.